Hey, good morning, Muscatine. This is Lieutenant Greg from Salvation Army. I get to guest host again one of the best things happening in Muscatine, which is the Muscatine Today Show. So we're here at the Hy-Vee 2nd Avenue. They have their big Hy-Vee Mega Trek Load sale happening now, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So make sure you stop by to see what's going on with that. Before we jump into everything, we have great guests today. I just want to thank some sponsors that makes this show possible. So of course, Hy-Vee, here where we're at, Unity Point Health, Trinity Muscatine, Muscatine Power and Water, Becky Insurance, Toyota of Muscatine, Rivo Plumbing and Heating, Impact Fitness and Nutrition, Suntan City, Lutheran Living Senior Campus, Impact Blood Life. No, sorry. See, I knew I was going to do it.
It's all right.
I knew it.
It's all right.
Impact Life Blood Center. Sorry about that. They're right next door too. My bad. Harper Cycling and Fitness, and two new sponsors we have for you today. Bayer of Muscatine and the Muscatine County Fair. Muscatine County.
That's right.
Yeah, we're here with Santos today, and we're going to talk about everything Muscatine County. And you're running for re-election.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. Well, a lot about that.
So, I'm running for re-election. I've had the opportunity and the privilege to serve the community over the last 3.5 years, and I'm running for re-election. But part of the things that are exciting about is things that we're doing in West Liberty, housing that we're working on in Wilton, housing that we're doing in Muscatine City, the new clinic that we're doing in Muscatine, and then obviously economic development and growth that we're having across the county as well too.
Yeah, so a lot of cool things happening.
Yes.
You might, if you're watching this, you might just think your mindset might just be Muscatine because you might just be living in Muscatine.
Correct.
But you cover Muscatine, you're county supervisor. So
correct.
You mentioned a lot of different things happening.
So you're talking Wilton, parts of Bluegrass, West Liberty, Moscow, Fairfield, you have Fruitland, Stockton, you have all of those cities that Conesville. I mean, you're running into where the whole county then in a sense is making sure we're taking care of the roads, we're taking care of making sure that we're looking at the bridges, we're taking care of all of those farm to market roads and gravel roads to make sure that we're getting the produce that you guys have here, and obviously, you know, the corn that continues to provide our state so much a great economy.
Yes, there's a lot of cool things happening around the county, not just the city of Muscatine, but around the whole county. One of the things that I noticed recently was the West Liberty Foods.
Correct. So West Liberty Foods has just announced that they will be building a new facility of $178 million facility just right outside of their city, right bordering up against the county. And so we're working with them in the economic chamber for West Liberty and building the location of where they're going to be at. It's a swap in a sense because they have 23 acres in the city of West Liberty, right in the heart of their downtown, and focusing on just going right to the outskirts in our area where we're looking at industrial area, which is in the city as well too, but it borders right alongside the county, and building the new $178 million facility. Hopefully we're looking at it in this next month. We have Debbie Durham coming down from the state. We'll be meeting there in West Liberty before we come here to Muscatine on the housing as well too.
How huge is that? They're making not a 1.78 but $178 million investment in Muscatine County, West Liberty, and
adding 200 more jobs. So we'll have over 1,000 jobs in West Liberty, which is a population of 3,750 people.
Wow.
And when you think about that and the impact it does for West Liberty and overall for our whole county and our tax dollars, our housing and jobs that it provides. So we did a couple economic studies, and the amazing piece that came out of that is that $178 million is an impact of $7.1 billion economically across our whole, county in a sense, and overall to think about how many jobs, how much future it brings in. And the investment that they're doing in this has been years in the making that we've been working. So I couldn't really talk about it before, but these kinds of impacts is just huge for our county in regards to thinking this provides future. I mean, and you think about when you see all the COVID and you see all the challenges you go through, what's the one thing that people must have? They must have food. So you know that this is something that we gotta have. You know you want to have shelter. You know you need to have safety. You want to have those types of. But food is such a critical piece, and so that to me is almost like a put our stamp of approval on that from our county. And so we wrote a letter actually this Monday to the governing bodies, because there's the USDA grant that they're attempting to try to help get some of the funding to start the beginning foundation of the work of it. And in support of it, we just actually signed it this Monday with our board and in support fully of it. And then we're going to have the state director from IFA, Debbie Durham, being here on June 7th, actually.
That's huge. So with my work with the Salvation Army, when I do my day-to-day stuff, my mindset is always, how can I make someone's life better?
Yes.
And so when I got here, I changed the name of Muscatine to the Salvation Army Muscatine County, because I wanted to encompass the county. And I can imagine that your mindset is that plus like a million other things happening. How can you make the citizens of Muscatine County, their life better?
Correct.
And you have a lot of things happening.
Yeah. So you always want to think that you're bringing value to whatever you're on, and to me, you got to look further. You have to see further.
Yeah.
When we had our annual meeting for the Chamber and Economic Development earlier, I asked them, I said the eagle looks at 5 miles out on its prey, 5 kilometers actually, and it doesn't stop until it actually gets it. To be able to have that ability to see that much further in that ability, that's what we have to do. We have to see further and saying, what does our county need? How can we see further, and how can we get to what our goals are? And that's really what I've challenged a lot of our team, because the director for our We Lead in West Liberty has been tasked with such a big ask in this, because part of when we do something like this is, okay, you provide 200 more new jobs in an area that only has a population of 350 on top of already the 900 they have, right? So where are they going to live?
Yeah.
So then simultaneously we are working with housing projects in the county, not just in West Liberty, but and saying, how do we make sure that we meet those needs? So we're working together with the city of West Liberty, also with the developers, and saying, this is what we're working on, and how do we make sure that we meet those timelines so it all comes together. So you have to, like I said, you have to get up to that eagle view and say, how do we see further to make sure that we're able to do that? And that's really a piece on that.
Might just think that when you're a county supervisor, you deal with the problems at hand, but you make a good point in that you have to anticipate.
So part of our task just in this one is part of the goals is all the way out, and the plan for that 7.1 billion is looking out to 2038.
Wow.
So we are not just looking at it and saying, and this is what I've told the team when we were out last week, as I said, we're not just looking at you and I's future, we're looking at our children's future and also looking at their children's future.
Yes.
So when you say, hey, am I planning for my grandchildren's future? That's truly looking at that eagle view.
Yeah, and you have family.
Oh, yeah.
You're planning not just for your counties. You're looking at your own family's future, and it's important to you. So, we're going to back up a little bit. This is like the age-old question. What was your burning passion on wanting to throw yourself into public office, public service, and run for county supervisor?
That's a very good question. So, I will say that I wasn't a politician before. I was reached out to wanting to help the community and just add value when I started the boxing gym. That was really my initial steps in saying, wow, I think I can help out. And somebody had asked me to sit in on a meeting, relatively new for me, to be involved in helping some issues that some new people that were living in the Cedar Park, Cedar Hills, and they just were culturally shocked by the police and how they were working with them and just things that they were challenged to. I ultimately offered some suggestions after about my third attendance in the meeting. And one of the existing council, and I think the mayor at the time, said, "Hey, why don't you think about running for city council?" And I had never thought about that. I just said, "Hey, I just wanted to help these people that I knew needed some guidance." And ultimately, that moved into city council at large, and then that moved into county supervisor, and then now I'm running for re-election. And I just truly believe that that I do have some input when I see my perspectives from you know, the input that I get from the public, the input that I get from my experiences, and really wanting to believe that this is my county, this is my home. So I want to make sure that we are building it for a better future. And I really believe that we are starting to put bigger marks on the map where we're getting people from the state coming down and saying, how do we get involved with what we see? And it creates an excitement because I see the things and the momentum that we're doing because in Muscatine, you know, Muscatine is looking at things in the city and saying, hey, how's West Liberty doing this? And then I look at it and challenge our team and saying, hey, why is the Quad Cities got to do that? Why can't we do that here? Other times where me and my wife will go to another community and I'll look at something and we'll maybe in a park or something and I'll be like, wow, why can't we do this? Or why is, you know, how do they have that? And how do I incorporate that into something because I see it's innovative or I see that it's creative and it brings, you know, people to our downtowns or it brings people into our community. And so you want to have that ability to always look at something and say, is there something that we could do here that may be better for us? And that's really kind of why I enjoy serving the community.
So when you said you're building, I really, you've mentioned before just all the things you guys have going on as the county supervisors for every area of Muscatine County, and it came to my mind like you're building the foundational blocks, or even strengthening those blocks that are already there, but building for the future, like you said, and it's so important to think forward and to think not just here and now, but forward and look at other communities, like you said, and it's just what you guys do is just there's so much, it's so encompassing of every single part of life of the people of the county.
So there's so many different aspects of what a county supervisor does. So we're obviously, we just helped fund close to $1 million in the new clinic that's going to be coming to Muscatine. You know, when we first had the discussions on that, that was just a rendering that somebody had drawn up. We knew that it was going to be capable of being there, and the county said, hey, this is something that we know we need to have. We need to be able to have babies in Muscatine. We need to have doctors that can provide that.
Right now.
Correct. And so we need to be able to make sure, how do we do that? So then we started strategizing, getting teams together. We didn't have funding at the time, but we knew we had a dream that we wanted to make something like that happen. And so then we started focusing on that, created some goals, set some visions for the team. And now, just 2 weeks ago, we were at a meeting where we've already been able to fund like $5+ million and saying, okay, now we're getting another. And so our overall goal is, you know, to get the 14 million. It started out, I think, at 12, but obviously you've seen material costs go up. So we're close to 14 million. But we're looking at possibly already starting to dig this foundation as late as this year. You know, and really, and so then we may say, okay, so then late fall of next year, we may have a new clinic in Muscatine. And when you think about, you know, fuel costs, things that are going up, what about the nurses and the people that may be living in Muscatine that may say, you know what, I'm not going to drive to Iowa City to work anymore. I'm going to work here in Muscatine. We're going to provide doctors and nurses and the ability to have those cares right here. So another challenge is we have the mental health region, and so now we're looking at a mental health center as well too, because we know that there's challenges that we have. And then we have the juvenile force, the juvenile 7th judicial court. So there's a lot of different programs, you know, that I could just overwhelm you with and saying there's so many things that we were trying to do, but it's all saying, okay, are we going down the right path long term, and saying, is this where we want our county to be focused on? And at the same time, we think about our citizens, we think about the fixed incomes, we think about the tax levies. We've you know, I've been very, very blessed in being able to say, hey, we're coming into this next year in July with a lower tax rate than what we've had before. And that's not something that you can say when you see some of these cities that are challenged with budgets. I understand that, but I think we have a very good team on our board that obviously looks at all of those aspects, and there's things that we look at as well too.
So when you go to work for the people, you really are working for the citizens of Muscatine County. And it sounds like, man, your passion's in it, your heart's in it. You know, and I think of the boxing club you started, and we just talked earlier about the previous officer here that visited your gym, your boxing gym, and then now Captain Lopez now started a boxing Muscatine Club in Topeka, Kansas, where they're at.
Yes.
Based off of what he saw you doing here in Muscatine. So
it's basically the same thing. We do it for 7 to 19-year-olds. He does it to 7 to 18, but as long as the child is still in school, we don't have a charge for them.
Yeah.
And so it's a very similar format, similar structure in regards to how he operates, and that's fantastic. Like I said, that's really giving back to the community, because when we think about the youth in our community, we talk about how do we structure, how do we fundamentally give them a mentorship, knowing that they need to have a good leadership, because our children are our future. They're the leaders that are going to be operating our county in the future. Yeah. And so, are we giving them the right guidance? Are we helping them be successful? They're watching you, like Captain Lopez saw you do your thing, and he went and implemented it there. Yeah. These youth that are watching you, when you do your thing at the boxing club here, they're going to be the future leaders of Muscatine, maybe a future Muscatine County Supervisor or city council member. Sometimes you don't even realize that you're inspiring other people by just what you're doing. You may be just living your life, and you think you're doing your job and serving the Salvation Army, but you may be inspiring other people outside of you. I never knew that Christian was going to do that. Yeah. I never knew that there's other people that may come back to me and say, hey, I saw you went back to college late. I went to do the same thing and went what you did. And I've had people come up to me and say those things to me, and I'm like, wow. Or they'll say, hey, something you told me 4 years ago really stuck with me. And I'm like, man, what did I say? Yeah. Like, I don't even think about it. It's just, I just say the things that I know that are in my heart or in my mind, and saying, how do I want to help people succeed? And that's really my main passion. It's really just wanting to see other people become successful, knowing that there's 2 roads in the path that they going, and which one is the right one, and helping them make sure they make the better choice for their future. Help make their life better. Yeah. Absolutely. So what is your most favorite thing that you get to do as a county supervisor? If you were to put it out there, what's your absolute, what you look forward to, what drives you, what's your favorite thing, top of the list, that you get to do as a county supervisor? Well, that to me is absolutely being able to see a project go from a dream, from a vision, from just a good conversation into actually something that is built on a foundation, and you see some people's success from that. I absolutely love seeing that. Like this West Liberty Foods, for example, the sports complex that we're doing in West Liberty, just some of these, just where it was just a rendering, just like the clinic. We see those things that was just somebody that said, hey, we need to do this, and how do we do that? And so you just draw it up. And I told our team on our last annual meeting, I said, everything in life always happens twice, once in your mind and once in reality. And when you see something like that and you say, this is what we want to do, and then we end up drawing it up, and then we actually see it, that to me, on a county board level, is the most satisfying position of being able to say, I helped and contribute to the success of something that ultimately helps our whole county become successful. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then you have a lot of things happening. Correct. I mean, you mentioned you said you don't overwhelm me with them, but mention them. I mean, this is the time to really put it out there. What exactly? Some folks might not even know what exactly is going on. So, for example, we're looking at a new mental health facility in Muscatine, and that's something that's not here. We're actually we've tasked Felicia and her team on our mental health team and saying, how do we get that here? What does it need to look like? And who do we need to team up with to be able to say, how do we get something like that? We've tasked West Liberty in combining some of our trails. I'm on the Bi-State Trails Committee too, to say, how do I get a trail from West Liberty to Muscatine, and a trail from Muscatine to Buffalo, and a trail to combine it to Loiza County from the south side, from Deep Lakes. The new cabins that we just put up last year, I absolutely love it. Gorgeous cabins. And those are all part of the county that operates. So when you think about some of those things, is how do we continue to add value to Muscatine County? How do we do that? And so we do that by saying, we want to make sure that, think about when somebody comes to the county, they want to know that they want to have to Muscatine, they want to say, hey, do I have a good place to work? Do I have a good schools? Do I have a good safety? And do I have a good a home that I can purchase in a good job? Yeah. So when you start saying, am I providing all of those things? So we have a collaboration with those businesses and say, okay, do we need to help them? Are they expanding? Can we follow up with the state and say, is there a grant that's available for this new food production? Is there a grant available for this new expansion? Okay, now we have to be looking at all of those angles. And so being able to look at all of those different aspects and saying, okay, asking and having a lot of times when we think about what's the struggles that a lot of businesses have, or even ability for them to grow, is their lack of sometimes the communication.
Yeah.
Having good communication and collaboration with those businesses is the key piece to success.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think as a county supervisor, I may be just a conduit between some levels of communications between city officials or between state right. officials, and being able to help that and saying, hey, how do we do that? Or hey, we're going to build a new road out to Stewart Road. That's one of the projects I think we're doing next year. We just finished, we're working on a road right in front of SSAB out there in Montpelier. Do we need to communicate with some of these levels? Or is there a potential, maybe there's something that the Trails Committee is looking at and we could have some opportunities to do some work together? How do we expand MPW's water all the way to Louisa County? There's different aspects that we're looking at it, and a lot of those things are key initial pieces that we want to try to continue to work on. So yeah, there's a ton of different little things that we are working on. The diversion program, making sure that we're allocating those things and making sure they're working in opportunities that we have youth that can say, hey, instead of maybe going down this path, get out here, do this work, go through this program, and this is not even on your record, but now you've had the opportunity to see something that you don't want to go down versus what you do want to go down.
Absolutely. Opportunities for young people for really every age in Muscatine County is something that in my 3 years I've been here, and I've traveled the county just to kind of get a feel for what's out there and how we can help. This is our first appointment, and I don't know that there will ever be a place like Muscatine County, and the communities that are here, everything that have going on, in the future. The future is so bright.
So it creates, it literally is like the snowball effect off the top of the mountain. It literally creates an avalanche of momentum. Yeah. Because when you see, hey, this community is doing this, and they're all part of the county, or hey, we did this here, and oh, hey, they're doing this here. And when we start literally avoiding, and we talked about this multiple times, having all these different groups working in silos, when we start working together towards the same vision, towards the same plan, and we bring everybody up to that same eagle view, then we're working further and farther to be able to say this is the vision that will help our county literally become a sustainable ability, because we have a lot of challenges that we're going to continue to go through. I don't believe that our COVID years are just behind us. I think we're still going to continue to see that. But how do we navigate through the storm? Yeah. Because eventually we'll be able to look back on it and say, hey, yeah, this is how we made it. Yeah. But we're not gonna be able to do that without continuing to collaborate and work together.
Absolutely. Any other what are some things that you would like to see? What are some of when you're up there looking those 5 kilometers in the future, in the distance? What are some things that you would like to see happen for Muscatine County, maybe communities across Muscatine County? What are some things that
So I challenge a lot of the teams to be really thinking of innovation and even and I know many times personal views can be automation thinks that they're taking away jobs. I don't believe that is the case at all, but I really believe that automation does help production. I think I want to be able to see further out in a logistical view that we run into so many issues that we can't get parts or we can't get services because they're just provided by an outside source. I really want to be able to own a lot more of that here in our county. Yeah. I think further out, I want to be able to obviously see our schools be one of the better schools in leading the state. I think we do a wonderful job in our futures for our jobs, and I literally believe that I want to see us building 500 new homes in the smaller cities and 2,000 new homes in the bigger cities to be able to really allocate for those people and at all the levels, because it's not just saying, oh, hey, I can afford a $150,000 home and I need a $400,000 home. I think we need to be looking at all of those levels And I really think that that is my further ability to be able to say, hey, fuel costs are probably not going to go down. So the more that we can have people actually working here and living here, they're not going to want to travel. I mean, how far do you travel to work? Probably what, 5-6 miles?
Yeah, it takes like 12 minutes.
Exactly. Okay. so then when you think about that, you say, hey, okay, but if I have to travel 50 miles, 100 miles a day times 5 days a week or 6 days, that starts adding up real quick. And so I want to be able to have that view and saying, you know, how do we do that? And so then we have started to collaborate with the city councils here in Muscatine and literally building the things that we're seeing on the south side of town. But part of the discussions that the mayor had just actually talked to me yesterday on was that he challenged the staff and saying, show me where we can have 800 new homes in Muscatine. You know, so to be able to say something like that, and he says now staff is working on it. So we have that as a goal right now. Where will our goals be 5 years from now? Yeah. So to me, that'll be 2,000 new homes. Yeah. And when we say our census and our shows, the growth, it really hasn't done a whole lot, but we're providing more jobs. We keep on seeing all this economic growth, but they're literally living in the Quad Cities or in Iowa City. And they're traveling in.
And so, be here.
And we're seeing, I've seen the numbers where it's basically almost just over 10,000 people that are traveling in here that don't work here. So think about what that does for our schools, for our property taxes, for our parks, for our mental health groups, for all of our clinics. The more people, even for our businesses here, you know. And so when we look at those things, I want to be able to say that I want more people living here and working here. That was my goal when I was in city council, and that's still my goal as a Muscatine County Supervisor.
Yeah.
You know?
All right. So, when is election day?
So election day is June 7th.
In early voting, I just saw the headline in the Journal.
Yes.
Is it starting today?
Yes. It actually started yesterday.
Early voting
started yesterday, yes. So you can go in and vote. My wife voted. My brother voted. I'm going to go take my dad in later. I'm going to vote early as well, too. But, you can vote now or you can vote on June 7th. I want to continue to try to be a supervisor and hope that the people can see the vision that I have for our county as well.
What does a vote for Santos Saucedo mean? What is it? So somebody checks or darkens in your circle there?
You can even do it. Well, it's a promise that I have to continue to want to serve the community. I really believe that when you look at how genuine I am in regards to who I was before I was ever in politics to where I am today, and continue to do that, I don't believe that a title means anything. It's about, are you bringing value to the county? And to me, that is what I will continue to do, is to bring value to help our county get further down the road, to help our citizens of this community. This is where my family, this is where my dad, I'm still here with our family, knowing and saying, how do I provide their future a better future? And that's continuing, my plan is to do that.
Yeah. So anybody who's ever sat in a city council meeting or box at your gym, youth, you have a whole gym and a whole chamber full of people that can attest to your passion, your drive, and your willingness to see others in the community succeed, to bring those affordable housing units in, to bring jobs in, to really I just go back to just making life better for the average citizen.
That's what everybody wants. They want to have a safe place to live. They want to have a good place to work. They want to travel close in their community. They want good amenities in their town. So all of those things are looking at it and saying, how do we provide those things? And to provide that, I used to think when I was in city council, I thought there was a magic key, some silver bullet that somehow would just make it all perfect. Right. And the more that I realized it, the further that I got to the point where I was like, no, it's not. It's literally like this and this and this and this and this, and there's like all of these items working together towards the same vision.
Yeah.
And that's really the piece that I've learned now over the years, that if we kind of do a little bit of that, it's kind of like going through that smorgasbord at the buffet. I want a little bit of that, give me a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and that ultimately brings back together and saying, this is what helps a strong, economic, safe, good clinics, good